People that had golden child siblings, how is your siblings and parents' life right now? Story 1. The one time my golden child brother stepped out of line, I protected him. Played the hero to make sure he was safe and okay. Less than 2 weeks later, my narcissistic mom is threatening to put me into the ground, that she hates me, wants to beat the shit out of me. He's standing there watching. I look at him and he says, "Don't come to me. I don't care. This isn't my problem." What did I do? I had the audacity to move out after graduating university. Story 2. My golden child brother is essentially a male version of my narcissist mom. The weird thing is, they are basically the same person. He is literally so enmeshed with her that he's her personal lapdog and will come at my throat whenever she has an issue with me, even if he 1. Wasn't there. 2. Didn't witness me do anything wrong, because I didn't, and 3. It's not his beef. He makes me feel sick. I don't know about your golden child siblings, but my brother has a lot of repressed rage. He has serious anger issues, but because he's denied the enmeshment and the weirdness of my mother his whole life and sold out to be favored by her, he has held it all in. He has so much anger inside of him, and you get glimpses of it now and then. He grits his teeth and says really horrible passive-aggressive stuff even in a normal conversation. This power-hungry little freak is also a police officer, by the way. Story 3. My brother, 25, is the golden child. I'm 27 and finally in a stable place in life. Family, friends, a long-term partner, gorgeous son, 2 cats, full-time employment, and hopefully buying our first home very soon. I was kicked out at 19 with no job, no money, no life skills, etc. He's still living at home. Never had a job, can barely cook a meal, spends time drinking with underage girls while mommy and daddy encourage him and pays for his lifestyle because the childish essence gives them an ego boost. I just laugh about him now. He will regret it all when our parents are no longer around and he can't get employment or look after himself or knows anything about housing and how society really works. He's abused too. Get fed, he's an adult, he should have figured out their narcissism and disgusting tactics a long time ago. Story 4. Having been raised by a narcissistic mom and an egotistical dad, my brother and I were both physically and mentally abused from the day we were born. The only difference is that mom's abuse diverted to me, leaving my brother untouched. She would praise my brother for everything. He is wise, loving, trustworthy, selfless, smart, handsome, whilst I would be the B********H in the family, egocentric, lacks empathy, cold, ugly-hearted. The funny this is, my brother confronted them about their abuse and got a sincere apology. They buried the hatchet, and my brother's relationship with both my parents are just so perfect. When I try to confront them about the abuse they have done to me, they are so quick to dismiss my wounds, disregard them as real because they only count their abuse towards my brother. It took me so long to understand that I was equally a victim of their abuse and that it wasn't just my brother and that I also deserved that recognition and apology. However, having learned about the golden child syndrome, I understand that such apology towards their scapegoat just will not ever happen. But this makes me so angry and sick because it's just so unfair. Seeing how my only brother has become so indoctrinated by narcissistic mom's words hurts me because he thinks he is so high and mighty that really makes me want to vomit. Whenever I tried to seek comfort from him about how I was also abused and that I feel like mom treats us differently, he lashes out just like how the narcissist mother does. Erratic. Rage. Monster. I expected him to empathize with me because surely he out of everyone should know how much of a narcissist my mom actually is. But no. He shouted at me for making him feel guilty for simply being loved more by our mother. He betrayed me, and I don't know if I can ever see my brother the same again. I am so saddened by this realization because I feel like I have opened the Pandora's box that should never have been opened. Knowing that my brother will always be praised and acknowledged whilst I get betrayed and abused is just not something that sits well in my heart, and I really want to find justice in our family. If you have a sibling who's a golden child, how is your relationship with them? Will they ever get to understand my point of view? Will they ever stand up for their own family, or will they continue to ignore me for the sake of their own guilt for being the better treated child and for their sake of maintaining their victimized position? Story 5. Narcissistic parents will only apologize if there is something in it for them or if they're afraid of losing supply. I believe that as the golden child gets older, they need to make a choice. They either accept that the narcissistic parents are abusive and choose not to participate, or they decide to stay in order to maintain the perks of their status. If the latter, they still have to deal with the shame of betraying themselves, so they often lash out at others. If they choose not to participate, they will often become the scapegoat. I chose the former. My golden child narcissistic sister chose the latter. Narcissistic parents will allow some pushback from the golden child in order to maintain control. They will also try to triangulate them with the other siblings because it is easier to maintain control that way. They won't be able to compare notes or form a united front against the narcissistic parent. My golden child sister also confronted my narcissistic mother about the abuse. Narcissistic mother chose to throw me under the bus instead, told golden child sister I was the abusive one and apologized for not standing up to me. I never laid a hand on golden child even though she hit and punched me. At the same time, my narcissistic mother complained to me about my sister, telling me exactly the opposite. My narcissistic mother did the same thing to my egotistical father, grandmother, and a host of family friends. My childhood was filled with estrangements from relatives and family friends who were suddenly deemed abusive or bad people by my narcissistic mother and cut off. She always had someone to blame. Looking back, it makes no sense. Narcissists will never really apologize. There is no remorse. They will always throw people under the bus. They will fake apologies if they get something out of the deal, like supply or a willing participant in their schemes. They will triangulate and sow division. I believe that on some level your brother knows he made a choice to live a lie. He's lashing out in rage because deep down he feels shame for allowing the abuse to continue. His response is a confession of sorts. If he really believed you weren't abused, his response would be confusion, curiosity, and hurt. He would want to resolve the situation and understand your point of view. He probably is also desperate to maintain his status as the golden child to protect himself. It is so hard to watch our siblings be infected by the narcissism virus. Story 6. For the record, my narcissistic parent is my mother. She treated me barely like her child, but she lavished nothing but attention and money towards my brother. My brother was allowed to make tons of friends, stay up late, stay out late, and didn't have to work or even finish high school. He dropped out as a junior and to this date has not completed his GED. Since my mother unceremoniously kicked me out, we got into an argument about my brother asking her for money because he's been spending his on drinking and eating out instead of bills. She yelled in my face I was causing her pain and said I'd be better off out anyway. I had told her that he needed to figure out his finances like an adult and told her point blank she never tried to help me. My brother has kept in contact with me. He always tells me he doesn't stay over at my mom's long to visit because he doesn't like her, but whenever I explain to him about the narcissistic abuse I went through, he always says well that was in the past and you have to move through it and move on. I told him that she made a huge difference between us, and yet he's the one who's had it easier. But the conversation was exhausting because I felt some narcissistic vibes coming from him. All he talked about was himself, how hard his job was. He literally has only been working since 2017, he hasn't been in the workforce long and tends to compare his 12-hour job to mine. I work an office job 8 to 5 now, but it took me years of retail and call center work to get to that office job, and I always give him hell for trying to make my journey sound insignificant. He literally didn't care that I told him I used to walk 4+ miles to work every day, sometimes by myself, because I didn't have a car. Does anyone else have a golden child sibling who exudes this behavior? I'm almost getting to the point of cutting contact off with him too because he's acting just like my mother. I'd love to hear some advice or tips on this. I'm struggling with the fact I'm probably going to have to cut off my brother and my mother, but with the mental gymnastics I've dealt with for the past 25+ years or so, I'm about ready for it. Subscribe.